don't think AI can be looked at like, just the Band-Aid for all your organizational content structure issues. You need to address the root, and I actually just thought of a kind of a semi-questionable analogy here.
Oh, no. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. As always, I am your host, Virgil Carroll, and with me today is...
Cole from Hi Monkey. Pleasure to be here, as always.
Yeah, another January winter day. Gonna probably have to go out this afternoon and do some shoveling, I think.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It just feels like 2025's flying by already. It just feels like just yesterday it was the holiday season.
Yeah, that's very true.
That's how it goes.
Maybe this might be the point in which I'm almost ready for winter to be over, so I'd actually be okay if it flew a little faster. Though, got a few more ski runs to get in, but then winter can just go by the way, and maybe this year we could do something different and actually get a spring.
Yeah, honestly, when February comes around, I'm ready for spring at that point. Like I don't know, that's where I'm at with things.
Well, I asked OpenAI to tell me about when winter was going to be over, and it couldn't do that. So, and I think that actually might be a little bit compared, or at least part of your topic today, I think.
Yeah, that might be semi-relevant to what we're talking about today. But yeah, I just feel like on the topic of AI, obviously it's the buzz right now. I mean, in my opinion, we can disagree, but
I don't even think buzz describes just how AI is taking over the consciousness of the world of technology and marketing, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. Like, it's not going anywhere. It's going to change the way people, operate with technology and work forever. But it's like, thinking about that, anytime there's a new wave of technology like that, I like to think about it like there's always going to be an outlier of people who are ahead of the curve. And with AI, the way I see it is the people who are going to be ahead of the curve with it aren't going to be able to like cut corners. And you might ask, what do I mean by that? But I think you probably know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you add to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you bring it up. I mean, and I know you're kind of referencing an article that I shared with you, that I read recently, talking about how, well, let me back up for a second. So one of the things I always think of when people talk about artificial intelligence, there's the practical side of actually what it's going to be able to do and the usefulness that it's going to have. And then you have the marketing side and the way marketers kind of push it. And I'm not talking marketers that use it. I'm talking about marketers that are for OpenAI and, Copilot and Microsoft and all those different ones and the way they're marketing it, which are basically saying, turn it on, boom, you're going to go. And it's going to be super awesome. But in practicality, it's not. And is it that the technology isn't there? Well, yeah, but it's also that, the reality is that if, say a good fundamental of search is that, if the content your search is crawling is garbage, well, then you're going to get garbage search results no matter how good of a search engine you have. Well, it's the same thing with AI, and that was kind of the gist of the article was saying, AI can do a really great job, but now you need to actually think about it. So it's referencing schema.org, and schema.org has been around for a really long time, and it basically is classification types that you utilize to classify different types of content on a web page. And then, when search engines crawl it, it gives it a more meaningful understanding. A lot of that was done from an SEO perspective, and it was a big SEO push around it. Like if you had a blog post or a recipe or something like that, you had a schema type for that, and that well-defined it. And, when Google returned that, it present the results. But the reality is now is what this author is kind of saying, and it's very true, is that you need to really be using these, 800 plus or 8,000 plus content types to really define content. And one of the biggest reasons the author says that is to use it to help AI figure out what the heck you mean when it's crawling. So there's a certain level of irony there, because isn't the way artificial intelligence is marketed in the first place is it, oh, it's going to have a deep understanding, it's going to look at your content, and it's going to know exactly what it is, and you're going to be able to ask it a question, and it's going to be able to just give you profound answers. Yet at the same time now, and I've preached this already, especially in the Microsoft 365 world of you know it's still not smart enough. And so if you don't have well defined content, it doesn't really understand it. So the entire gist of that article is you need to define your content really, really well, and define all the different types to make it actually work well. So the reality is there is such a contradiction between what is marketed and what is the reality of artificial intelligence. It's not that artificial intelligence is not a good thing and has some really great practical applications. It's that it's not a silver bullet, which is the way it's marketed. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we're running into right now, in the world of web, especially because a lot of people are starting to look at it, and there's like, let it generate your content, let it do this and that kind of stuff. And people are having to generate content. They're like, what the hell is this? This wasn't at all what I meant.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't think AI can be looked at like, just the band-aid for all your organizational content structure issues. You need to address the root, and actually just thought of a kind of a semi-questionable um, analogy here.
Oh no. Well, now you got
Yeah.
to share it.
Well, okay, so a lot of people, I mean, this is not like a new thing, but with the complexities of life, they might resort to, let's say, drugs for masking all of their problems and all of their, emotions and whatnot. And they just kind of hide underneath the drugs and let, that kind of take over for them. Well, in the same way, you can't turn to AI to, mask your terrible content structures and your terrible data governance. And
Very well taken. Very interesting analogy,
I just
but
thought, I don't know, it
very
just
well
came to
taken.
mind.
A good point. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I've been saying it in the world of search forever. Good search can't mask crappy content. And it really is the same. And again, don't get me wrong. There are some really good applications of AI. Like I've seen some of the things that our developers have used and other people have used, like in the coding realm and that kind of stuff. And we obviously use it for things like generating keywords on posts and that kind of stuff. There's some definite usefulness to it, because it can look and it can go through and it can kind of bring it back. But it's like everything. I mean, one, people kind of have to use it with a grain of salt, and it isn't just do it, copy paste, and you're good to go. But more so, you're absolutely right. To get artificial intelligence to the level of understanding that it can understand every different type of writing style, every different type of piece of information that's being written about, and everything else like that. I don't think people really understand how complex it is. It is still fundamentally behind the scenes, a search type system that basically uses really advanced algorithms, knowledge networks, neural links, all this different stuff. But overall, it's looking at your content, it's processing your content, and then it's doing something with your content.
Yeah.
And but it's trying to be smarter in the way it does it. But if your content isn't good, it doesn't really matter from there. So again, this kind of goes back to picking on marketers and the way they do things, and that they like to make things very flashy and that kind of stuff. But a lot of times on highly marketed websites, marketing websites, the substance of the content there is very minimal. It's the reason that search fails. It's the reason that artificial intelligence is going to fail in that. And you really have to start address that and thinking about what people are really going to use your website for, or your business application, or whatever it is. And that if they're going to leverage it somehow through AI, to access some piece, if your content isn't thorough enough, isn't understandable enough, it's not going to really do anything.
Yeah, I think kind of along those lines, the article, which we, by the way, will link in the show notes, it raised an interesting point of, where, content or search kind of used to be about, and it still kind of is, about like the content ranking, like in the search engine. But it was talking about how, as AI search engines get more, relevant in this AI age, it's going to be a lot more about how your content is structured, like the how schema can establish how relevant your site content is to a potential AI search. So I think this kind of goes along in this conversation as, just make sure you have good content, structuring it well, so it can be like relevant in AI search results and
Yeah, it's actually an interesting thing when you start talking about schema.org. We've used it for a long time on customer websites and different applications, and even on our own website. But the interesting part that I think of from a schema perspective is that a lot of those schemas are not very friendly. Otherwise, there's a lot of settings that you have to do, and you have to do a lot of things in very specific ways to get them to kind of work the way you want it to. So it's kind of a little bit of a conundrum for organizations, because it's not exactly the easiest thing to implement. The interesting thing we'll see as AI kind of continues to build is whether we'll see organizations that are kind of these SEO kind of specialist type organizations kind of take this more on as a challenge for themselves and work with their customers to kind of do more around properly defining content. But in the end, I mean, starting fundamentally, AI is not the answer. It's a better answer, but it's only going to be as good as your content is. So you always need to be thinking about that. And that really is a gist to this in there. And I know we could probably talk about this for 400 hours and talk about 500 different things, and we probably will over
you
the
probably
next
will over the
year.
course of the podcast.
Yeah, right,
And why
exactly.
not? It's the
But
buzz.
but from here, if you walk away with one thing from this one, it's like it's only going to be as good as your content. And you'll probably hear that as a running kind of theme across a lot of our podcast episodes.
Yeah.
But the reality is that even though technology has changed, trends have changed, and everything else like that, the one thing that hasn't changed is that need. If your content is not good, you're not going to be good.
You
And
need
that's just kind of the
context.
end of it.
Context enhances the content
Absolutely,
and the
absolutely.
search
So,
and the AI.
well, I think that's at least a good start in kind of going down a slippery slope of artificial intelligence. And that, so I'm sure we'll be bringing that one up again.
Indeed. I'm liking the 2025 topics so far. And yep, as always, we got a lot of more cool topics coming. So stay tuned.
Yep. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, we'll be dropping new episodes every 2 weeks. If you enjoyed the discussion today, we would appreciate it if you hit the like button and leave us a review or comment below. And to listen to past episodes or be notified when future episodes are released, visit our website at www.discussingstupid.com and sign up for our email updates. Not only will we share when each new episode drops, but also we'll be including a ton of good content to help you in discussing stupid in your own organization. Of course, you can also follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SoundCloud, or really any of the other favorite podcast platforms you might use. Thanks again for joining, and we'll see you next time.